So we've been looking at the idea of peace, and the practice that goes along with that is mindfulness. And mindfulness is a meditative technique, but not all meditation is mindfulness, and not all mindfulness requires you to be in a meditative state to do it. Mindfulness has three basic components. The first one is to simply bring our attention to something, to become aware of it. And then the second one is to look at it with a sense of acceptance, not necessarily resignation, but just acceptance. It is what it is. And the last one is the idea of equanimity, balance, non-reactivity to the situation. Because it's not so much the situation's the problem, it's how we react to it. And so this idea of equanimity is very vital to our experience of mindfulness in our lives. Without it, it's good to be aware, and it's good to say, okay, this is what's happening. But, if we are judging it or reacting harshly to it, then we're out of balance there. We're not experiencing that peaceful non-judgment of the situation. So tonight, for our final night, I wanted to look at mindful self-compassion. I've done several courses through a researcher named Kristin Neff, who has out of the I think it's University of Austin. It's one of the big universities in Texas, where she has been doing phenomenal work for the last couple of decades, along with one of her colleagues, on the idea of mindful self-compassion and how we can actually apply mindfulness to ourselves in a way that is, again, going to help us transform our lives, going to help us have a better experience in our lives. And so self-compassion is lots of things, and there's some things that it's not. And, sometimes self-compassion gets a bad rap. Oftentimes we think of self-compassion as an excuse to have a pity party, an excuse to feel sorry for ourselves. Well, I'm going to be compassionate to myself because I'm going through all this, and I'm just going to sit here and feel bad about it. That's not what self-compassion is. Self-compassion is about, again, looking at where we can begin to shift our lives. What are the things that we're doing? How are we reacting to things? What are our go-to behaviors? And how we can begin to change that. I love what Kristin Neff says about self-compassion. She says, self-compassion provides an island of calm, a refuge from the stormy seas of endless possibility and negative self-judgment. So we can finally stop asking, am I as good as they are? Am I good enough? Self-compassion is about tapping into that inner wellspring of kindness that is inherent within us. It's right there within each one of us, and we just need to take the opportunity to apply it to ourselves. We are so much more harsh on ourselves than we could ever possibly be to anyone else. I say this often, but I love the line from Michael Gott's song that says, I never say to anyone the things I say in my own mind. The things that I say about myself, the things I say to myself, I would never, ever say that to anybody else in my life because it would be too harsh for that. One of the problems in our lives is that we don't always look inside for our internal validation. We have a tendency to put all of our need for acceptance and love and security into relationships that are outside of ourselves. We expect our relationships to meet all of our needs. And we expect the people that we're in relationship with to anticipate those needs and then meet them. And we all too often refuse to take personal responsibility for how we feel about ourselves. We're always looking for that external validation. But what if we could actually provide those feelings for ourselves? What if we could actually find a way to have that experience without having to seek it from outside of ourselves? So self-compassion requires that we recognize where we're suffering. We can't be moved to change if we don't recognize that our pain exists in the first place. If we don't acknowledge that pain is there, then there's no impetus to change. Most of our Western culture has been raised up with this keep a stiff upper lip tradition. We're taught not to complain, to just carry on, or Even worse, just get over it. We seldom take the time to recognize that in the midst of a hard situation, how very, very difficult it is for us, because we're not taught to do that. Most of us grew up in a culture that is steep in what they call the Puritan work ethic, the idea of self-determination, of individual achievement. If we don't succeed at something, there's got to be a reason it's our fault, and let's see how hard we can be on ourselves about that. And again, self-compassion is not self-pity, and it's not self-indulgent. We need to begin to look at our shortcomings, our mistakes, our failures in a way in which we can begin to soften ourselves from the intensity of the judgment that we always bestow upon ourselves. We need to begin to let go of the extreme expectations of perfection that we've placed on ourselves. When we give ourselves compassion, then that tangled web of self-judgment starts to dissolve and can be replaced by feelings of peaceful acceptance. And again, acceptance is one of the key points of mindfulness. You really are the only person in your life who is available 24/7 to you to provide the care and the kindness and the love and the compassion that you so vitally need. If you're not going to do it, who is? And if you're expecting somebody outside of yourself to do it, your expectations in them are way too high. So how do we begin to do this? How can we begin to develop this more sense of self-compassion for the things that we do in our lives? So the first step that we can do is begin to notice how we treat ourselves. Notice when you're being self-critical. What is the situation around the criticism that you are exhibiting towards yourself? The problem is that oftentimes this self-critical voice is so frequent, so like nonstop, it's that radio that's constantly going, that we don't even notice it. It just becomes a background buzz. So the first step is, again, begin to notice it. Notice what we're feeling. Notice when you're worked up over something, when you're feeling like you're judging yourself, you're being very hard on yourself. Notice what's involved. Again, that's that first step of mindfulness, bringing our attention to it. And then begin to make an active effort to soften that critical voice. But do that with compassion, not judgment. Because we don't need to add more judgment on top of this criticizing voice that we already have. So begin to say, oh, look at that. There I am again. See, I'm being hard on myself. Now, I have a friend who was a mentor for many years, and she would ask me this question when I was being very hard on myself in a situation. And everything was like kind of absolute, this is the way it is. I'm such an idiot. I did that. And she would just look at me with this smile on her face and said, is that true, honey? Just begin to soften ourselves. And then we begin to reframe the observation that you have noticed in a kinder, more positive way. Begin to look at it. Yeah, I made a mistake. Yeah, I've made that mistake before. And it's very possible I'll make that mistake again. But each and every time, I'm trying my best, doing what I can to do to not repeat this pattern. And just feel the difference in that, as opposed to, well, you idiot, look what you've done again. If we can begin, okay, yeah, there it goes again. I wish I hadn't done that, but there it is. And this one is, the next step is a really biggie, because it's kind of our nature. We need to let go of the need to compare ourselves to others, and instead look at how we are connected to others. Look for our common humanity, our interconnectedness. I know people also have done this too. I know that this, I'm not the only one who's ever messed up this way again. If you're having trouble finding the commonality in your mistakes, then I suggest you begin by practicing finding commonality in simple, benign things. Like the easiest one for all of us is, oh, they had a mother too. I'm wondering what their relationship was like with their mother. Or, oh, they have to go to work also. Drivers in the car, oh, they've got someplace to get to as well as I do. And maybe they're running behind times. Begin to soften the way that we look at it and find the things that you have experienced that you know other people are experiencing too. Look for the common humanity. Because we seldom judge ourselves. We seldom judge others as hard as we judge ourselves. And so if we can look at others with an open idea of, oh, they do this, I do this, then that softens the way that we experience ourselves in the world. And so it's a great way to begin to actually begin to shift things for us. And one of the things that I found very helpful for me is to keep a self-compassion journal. I did this in the classes I was taking through Kristen Neff's program. And in this journal, you're going to do just the things that I've just spoken about. When you are experiencing a situation where you think a little more self-compassion might be helpful, then, write down how you're treating yourself in that situation. Be very mindful of the emotions that you feel during that one. Identify them. Am I feeling shame? Am I sad? Am I angry? Am I afraid? Write down the emotions and anything else around that emotion as you identify them. Notice how you judge yourself in the situation and write down anything about that. And then write down the ways that you can take that judgment and begin to soften your self-critical voice with compassion instead of adding more judgment onto it. Reframing our critical observations in a more positive way. Write that in your journal. How could I have done this differently? And then look for the common humanity that you are expressing in this situation. It could be something as simple as, I know I'm not the only person who's ever done this. It brings in a way of taking us from this isolated one-time thing that we think we're the worst thing ever and brings us into a place where, oh, I'm not alone in this. Write down the ways in which your experience is connected to the larger human experience. And those kind of things can begin to let you see the patterns of how you are so hard on yourselves, on this self-judgment that you feel. And they begin to help you identify ways in which you can be more compassionate towards yourself. So I'd like to close out tonight with an exercise that's about experiencing more self-compassion. And the exercise is called Soften, Soothe, and Allow. And so it's a meditative experience, and I'm going to invite you to go into the meditation with me and experience this together. So let's begin by finding a comfortable position. Now, you might want to lie down or sit. It doesn't matter. You can sit on the floor in the lotus position. You can lay down on your couch or your bed. You can sit in your comfortable chair or recliner, whatever you're watching here, or even if you're in your office chair, sitting in front of the computer. Just find a way to get into a comfortable, relaxed position. And then close your eyes and take in a few relaxing breaths. You don't have to change the pattern of your breathing. You don't have to make them really big. Just do what comes naturally to you. 3 good breaths. Now place your hand on your heart or some other place on your body that you find to be a soothing place. Some people, it's their stomach. Some people prefer to cross their arms on their chest. Whatever feels comfortable for you. It could just be that you're leaving your hands lying loosely on your lap. but connect your hand to your body so that you can feel it. And for a few moments, as you're connecting with your body, just remind yourself that you too are worthy of kindness. Now let yourself recall a mild to somewhat moderately difficult situation that you're in right now. Maybe it's a health problem, a stress in a relationship. Maybe you've got a loved one in pain. Maybe you're having difficulty at work. Maybe there's challenges with paying the bills. Just whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a big problem. But choose something that's real for you. That can generate a little stress in your body when you think about it. Now clearly visualize the situation. Look at who's involved and look at what is happening. And now as you relive this situation, notice if any emotions arise within you. And if they do, see if a label for that emotion comes up. Give it a name. For example, sadness, grief, anger, confusion, despair. What is the emotion that's coming up? And if you're having many emotions come up, see if you can name the strongest emotion associated with the situation. Or maybe you've got a couple of emotions that are similar in nature that you would group together to make, that one emotion. Like if you were experiencing confusion and doubt, maybe that's just one thing. And now just say to yourself, in a gentle, understanding voice, as if you were talking with a friend and the friend is explaining the situation and what they're feeling. And you might say, that's longing, or that's anger, or that's grief. Just say that to yourself. Now expand your awareness to your body. Think of this situation again and scan your body where you most easily feel the situation. In your mind's eye, you just simply sweep your body from your head to your toe, stopping at any place where you sense a little tension or discomfort. And just feel what you're feeling in your body right now. Now, if you can, choose a single location in your body where that feeling expresses itself most strongly. Perhaps it's pain in your muscle, or a cramp in your calf. Maybe it's just a hollow feeling or an ache. And in your mind's eye, just simply put your awareness on that spot. And allow yourself to fully inhabit the physical sensation of that emotion in your body. And now we begin to soften into the location in your body where you feel that difficult emotion. let the muscles in that area soften. Let them relax as if you're in warm water. And you might have to say to yourself, soften, soften, soften. Remember, we're not trying to change the feeling. We're not trying to push it away. We're just allowing space to hold it in a very tender and gentle way. And now we're going to soothe ourselves in this situation. And again, you can place your hand over your body part that you're feeling that discomfort. Just gently touch the palm of your hand to it if you can. If not, maybe visualize a hand touching up against that body part and just feel the warmth and the love and the kindness flowing through your hand into your body. You might even think of this part of your body as if it were the body of a beloved child that you are comforting. And if anything comes up for you to say, like maybe, I feel sorry that I'm feeling this way. I feel deeply about myself. Oh, this is very hard to feel. May I be kind to myself. Whatever occurs to you that's soothing, that is gentle, that doesn't make you clench up again. If you feel yourself clenching up, go back into breathing into that space. And if you need to, feel free to open your eyes whenever you wish. Maybe even let go of this idea and just feel your breath. And our last step is allow. And in this step, we allow the discomfort to be there. We make room for it. And we release the need to make it go away. This is the equanimity. Experiencing it in a non-judgmental way and just allowing it to be. So just allow yourself to be in this space as long as you need to. If you feel like maybe it's just starting to soften just a bit, you can always complete this exercise now and return to it again later on. I have found with some of my most profound practices that they were a minute by minute thing. I could do it for a bit and then I'd let it go and I'd come back to it and do it again and I'd come back to it. Do it again. It's the practice that's important. As the phenomenal Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith says, it is practice that transforms our lives. And you might, after you've experienced this, just make note. Again, you could use a self-compassion journal, or you can just do this in your head or wherever you like to journal. But did you notice a change in how you were feeling when you actually gave the emotion a name? Did you feel any shift in it by acknowledging it and giving it a place to be? And what did you observe when you explored your body for that physical sensation that had linked itself with that emotion? What happened when you softened the body part and soothed yourself and allowed that emotion to be there without trying to shove it down or push it away. Did the emotion change during the exercise? Did the physical manifestation shift itself to some other place in your body? Did it dissipate itself? Did you feel it breaking up? Was there more flow in your body? And did you encounter any other difficulties with this practice? This is something you can return to anytime you want to. There are fabulous videos out on the internet that you can help you move through this. Mindful self-compassion has become a pretty big practice in many places in the world. So there's lots of information out there on it, but it is a profound practice that I hope you take the opportunity to experience. Thank you for being here with us tonight. We so appreciate it. We broadcast every Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock. We broadcast a wonderful little thing that we've started this year called Keeping It Real. And it's Thursday mornings, broadcast live Thursday mornings, but you can watch it on YouTube anytime that you'd like to after that. We do it at 9 o'clock on Thursday mornings with me. And it's just usually 5 to 10 minutes, quick practice about what we're talking about for the month. Next month, for June, we are going into balance, into that idea of being at peace with things and not as reactive to them, staying in balance in lots of different ways in our lives. And so on Thursday morning, I'll kick off our first Keeping It Real with the topic of balance. And of course, we always have our Sunday services broadcasting. They start at about 9:30. We have our meditation, and then our service starts at 10 o'clock. And that is always available for you online too, as well as lots of things, lots of different offerings at our YouTube channel. We have weekly meditations. We have our spiritual soundscape, which is wonderful music by our guest artists and our music team here at Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Las Vegas. So please check it out. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter, you can do that on our website, which is CSLGLV.org. And check us out, see what we have to offer. So have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.